Life isn't perfect, and neither are we.
Nope. But we know how to face our fears
And have some fun.
and talk about all the messiest things of life.
Like the messiest things.
Get connected to yourself, get connected to others, and get connected to the life right in front of you.
This is The Connected Life with Justin and Abby.
That's me.
That's you.
And you.
I really don't think you care about anyone else but yourself. You don't think about me very often. It's only when it benefits you that you think about me. And it's pretty clear that my feelings don't matter to you.
You're judgmental. You have no compassion for people. I don't know what this game is, but I'm saying mean things back.
I'm not saying mean things. I'm telling you how I feel. You clearly don't care about my pain.
No.
Not at all.
No.
I sit here and I share it all.
Mm-hmm.
And all you say is what? I'm being what? Mean and judgmental?
This is the bad dance that happens in almost every relationship. So much of it centers around how we relate to each other in communicating our hurts, our anxiety, our fears, our concerns, our stress. The way that we communicate all of that often creates chaos in relationships.
Yeah.
And most people don't know how to navigate this area. And I know for us, it created an absolute crap storm in our marriage.
Yeah. Yeah. It was pretty devastating in the way that we related. Those messes that it created, we've spent years trying to clean up the impact of that. And so this is why learning how to communicate our pain is one of the most vital things that we can do to creating a healthy relationship and deep connections with people is, again, learning how to communicate our pain. So.
Yeah. And I think if you're just tuning in, we laid the groundwork for this episode last episode. This is a 2-parter, maybe 3-parter. Who knows how long it will go.
Abby likes to ramble. So
about my pain. I'm just kidding. But we're going to talk through in this episode some of the pitfalls that we did in how we communicated our pain in ways that hurt each other more, and then ways that we've learned to communicate our pain that has created safety and connection for us. I think in our relationship, the way that we shared vulnerable hurts, pain, fears, anxiety, concerns about life and our relationship, the way that we communicated those things ended up often creating some toxic cycles between us, where I would walk away feeling really unloved and unheard, and you would walk away feeling really scared and overwhelmed or unloved and unheard. And we would do this cycle round and round and round. And that typically happens when we don't have other tools. We keep approaching the same conversation and we think we try it in multiple different ways, but typically it's around the same kind of concept circularly until we realize that is not going to work. And I think one of the things that has changed our marriage the most is the humility to say, I don't think I have healthy relationship skills. I don't think I have healthy communication skills. Or maybe a more nuanced way would say, like, I have some healthy relationship skills and communication skills, and I have some that are not healthy and that are destructive and that are causing our relationship some damage. And when we can look at that, not like, oh, I'm a failure as a human being, or I don't deserve relationships because I don't know how to do these skills. And we look at it more through that compassionate lens of course, I don't know how to do these skills. I wasn't taught how to share my feelings vulnerably when I wasn't triggered, and how to communicate without blame, and how to narrate what's going on inside of me instead of making it about you. Of course, I don't know how to do these things, or I've never learned what's going on in my body and my triggers when I'm having feelings of fear in our relationship. So if we can start to humanize that relationships are complicated, every relationship has so many different dynamics. Even if you're really good at navigating one relationship, you might have another relationship that just you're like, I don't know what to do here. And so the concept of I might just need some more skills, if we didn't shame ourselves for that, then letting go of the shame of I should know this already. I must be missing something. I must be so behind. Because I can tell you, we've met with over 4,000 clients. And nobody knows the skills. That's why everybody is trying to figure it out. That's why so many people are getting divorced. Like, communication skills are hard, not only to learn, but to implement into real life. And so we can give ourselves some grace for that, but then acknowledge I might need to learn some more. That opens up a whole new world for us to learn and grow skills that can make relationships so much richer.
Yeah. So if you guys haven't checked out part one's vital. Go back to part one. It's going to give you the foundation of some of the major key points of where we butted heads and had problems communicating. And it's going to really help you jump into this episode.
Yes.
If you haven't done it already, though, go to YouTube, hit the bell button, and subscribe there for us. If you haven't, if you're not already watching us on YouTube, jump over there as we're getting this kicked off. So, all right. So, where do you want to go?
Where do you want to go?
I don't know. Did you have any more of your terrible communication skills you wanted to share with us? Or
yes, I do. I have lots. I have lots. One of the things that I did wrong in our relationship is I used certainty language and all or nothing black and white language. You never listen to me. You always get defensive. You never follow up. You never respond this way. I always listen to you when you're sharing your feelings. I always take the trash out when the trash is full. You never care about me. Like a lot of those all or never statements.
Yeah, it was very black and white.
Yes, black and white thinking. And what I will say is, it felt true to me. It felt true. Like, I need you to see that there is this real pain. And I think when you've had somebody deny your pain for a long time, which I would say is in a lot of situations, our pain is denied in childhood, in workplaces, in family systems, in relationships. And so all or nothing language is me really trying to say there is a valid concern here. There is a real pain point that I'm experiencing, and my pain is this big about it. Listen to me. This is big. Listen to me. But all that does is make your brain loop and hook onto the fact that, like, that's not accurate. Well, it's not accurate. I don't always do that. I remember last week, I listened to you last week and responded really well. And so then I know this happens for me. If somebody says, you never do this, and I'm like, I just did that. I am no longer caring about validating their pain. I am now so obsessed with the inaccuracy in what they said that I need to defend what they said wrong instead of seeing their pain.
Yeah. Let me add this. It's not just about inaccuracy. It's about the actions that are good and pure and true are dismissed. So when you use all or nothing language, you're dismissing people's efforts. Mm-hmm. So for me, my efforts that I've been correcting years of behaviors in order to deepen our connection, in order to better align with some of the needs that you had. And so when you'd communicate with this all or nothing language, this dismissiveness, it would hit all of my efforts. Mm-hmm. And what it would do inside of me is it would create a sense of hopelessness. Like, I'm doing everything that I can and it's still not being seen inside of this. So what's the point? Yep. And so it would initially cause me to argue, and then it would cause me to become dismissive, because then I'm like, oh, I don't even care to hear what she's saying. Like, that's so absurd because I'm doing all of this over here. And I've missed out on the moment of your pain because of the way that you're articulating it. Yeah.
And I think that in an ideal world, I remember when I got married being like, I should be able to share my pain however I need to share it and just have you hear the heart of it.
Yeah.
That's what I genuinely believed. Like,
I felt the same thing.
I should just be able to vent. Like, and I felt actually controlled by the idea that I needed to share it right so that you would listen. And if it becomes like that, that's kind of like a religious idea. Like, I have to be absolutely perfect or you won't care about me. That feels like too much pressure, and it feels like striving. But there is a truth that is not, it's my job to do everything right perfectly, but there is a truth that like I can learn how to communicate in a way that is safe for both of us so that we can both be more present with our, even in our bodies, like the blood flow. I can communicate in a way where you're not going into your reptile brain, or I can communicate in a way that sends you into your reptile brain.
Well, one of the things that you're looking for is how do I be effective at conveying what my experience is so that I can get what I'm ultimately needing out of this situation.
Yes.
And so people who have wisdom are going to look at it through the lens of, I want to be effective. Whereas people who aren't necessarily operating out of wisdom say, I just want to be able to communicate however I want.
Yes.
And that's something for me as well. I wasn't operating out of wisdom when it came to me communicating my pain. I was like, I should be able to say this the way that I want to say this. And I agree with you. I felt like you were trying to control me when you're like, I need you to say that differently. It's like, why are you trying to control how I communicate?
Yeah.
But again, when I partnered with wisdom, I was like, but I want to be effective. I want to actually be heard on this, and I want to change the conditions of what I'm experiencing. So I'm willing to try a different technique. It's like that in anything you do. And this is talking to even guys, especially like if you play a sport, like you're going to change up your techniques. If you know that technique is going to, get a better score at golf or whatever it is, you're going to change your swing up.
Yes.
Like nobody's trying to control you when a coach is being like, hey, change your swing in this way because you want to effectively get that ball into that hole or closer to that hole. And, you're not going to sit there and be like, stop controlling me. You're going to be like, yes, I want a better score.
Yes.
And so I think that's something that we need to think about is the concept of effectiveness.
Well, and this really did change my whole mindset in our relationship. And then we'll get back to all or nothing language. But the idea of what do I want? Do I want my rights? I want to feel whatever I feel, and I want to vent however I want to vent. And I want you to just be able to love me and hold all of the room for every expression that I have. I mean, I think that's genuinely what I wanted. And instead being like, do I want to demand somebody do something that's actually unsafe for them? Because it is. If I logically think about it, I'm like, there's a lot of ways that I communicate that would feel scary for someone else if they don't know. And I think
overwhelming might even be another word for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And none of us want to acknowledge that about ourselves. All of us want to be like, no, I'm so great. I'm so, like, if you love me, you love all of me. And I just don't think that's true. I think you love the authentic me, but you don't love my coping mechanisms or the things that I do when my brain is in self-protection mode, or the things that I do when I'm out of my mind because I'm having so many emotions. Like,
at minimum, I don't enjoy it.
Yeah. And that's actually allowed. And I think it's valuable to actually say it's allowed to not enjoy all of the ways that our partners share their hurts and pains and concerns about life. And we can come up with some ground ideas. And that concept you're saying is what is beneficial. I started looking at, which is if I want to be heard, what logically do I need to have the best chances of being heard? I need to create a space where Justin feels like I'm safe, where he feels like I'm not attacking him, and where he feels like I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt, and where he feels like I'm not stabbing him. That's like a big part for me is, can I just communicate? So I'm looking at what makes me defensive. Oh, it makes me defensive when people use all or nothing language. This is really how I stopped doing it. It wasn't because you asked me to stop. I wish it was. That'd sound really loving if I said, oh, you asked me to, so I gave it up. What happened is I realized when people used all or nothing language with me, I immediately feel defensive.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's a natural human reaction to all or nothing language. I don't know anyone that loves being told that they're just a complete failure or that they never do anything good. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I'm like, I conceptually realized if I don't feel good when this happens, he probably wouldn't feel good. So I should not use that language. And for me, one of the big ahas was as I learned about my nervous system. And you learn that your body is always assessing, am I in threat or not? And the words we use when we vent actually communicate back to our nervous system if we're in threat or not. So when I would say, you never listen to me, you never apologize and mean it, whatever I would say, my brain would hear, he never does that, whether or not it's true. And my brain would be like, that is so scary. Alert, alert, alert. And I would actually throw my nervous system into a higher state of threat by saying that you were doing a bigger thing than you were doing. And so one of the ways that I've learned to communicate is I try to get more specific. And I do these affirmations like, my pain matters. I don't have to prove that it's all or nothing. I don't have to prove this level 10 pain. I can say that this matters to me, whether or not it's something he's done our whole marriage or not. Why don't I take this a small chunk like, hey, the last 3 conversations we've had about this subject, it's felt like you got defensive. I'm not now saying our whole relationship. I'm not now saying every single thing, but I can bring up something specifically because that's more palatable for you, and then what that says to my own nervous system is 3 times this hasn't worked. And that feels way easier to deal with because it's less ambiguous and less overwhelming for my own body to hear.
Yeah, that's really good. I think that when we take and bring it down into even saying like, hey, I know that in our relationship, I have a pain point around this communication style or around this circumstance.
Yeah.
I have a pain point here. You don't have to say it all.
How many times?
Yeah, like you've done it all these times and you're always doing this to me. It's, I know that I have there's an incredible amount of pain that hits inside of me over this. And I want to find a solution for it. I want to figure out how to communicate that in a way that you understand it.
I melted a little bit when you said that because I just was thinking, you really do say things like that so often and you really learned how to implement such better communication.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's more vulnerable. And it's again saying there's a very real pain that I have, but you're not labeling me and you're not dismissing you in order to communicate it.
Yeah. There's also something about inward versus outward communication. When I sit here in an inward communication, I get to say, I have a pain point inside of this. There's something going on inside of me. I have pain, a painful experience. This is difficult for me. I'm talking about the impact that I've experienced or my experience, right?
Yeah.
Experience and impact are necessary to communicate the inward versus the outward pain. So outward is, you're terrible. You do these things all the time. Inward is, I know I have pain over this. I know that I feel overwhelmed by this. I know that this is difficult for me. I know that I feel rejected when this happens. I have this pain point that's gone on throughout the years where I can tell that I feel rejected when these actions take place.
And what you're talking about is, we call it narration. Pete and Johnny call it micro truths. I think there's lots of different ways that you can look at it. But the reason I call it narration, I listened to years. People say, don't use you language, use I language. And it just never clicked into me because I would try to use I language and it'd be like, I think you're being stupid. Like I was like trying to figure out, how do I use I language to still make the statement about you though?
I feel like you're an asshole.
Yes, 100%. And
I'm telling you, it's just a feeling I'm having.
Yes. And I communicated feelings a lot like that instead of learning. So narration really, something clicked into place in my brain when I started to be like, I need to be paying attention to my internal world as much or more than me paying attention to what you're doing and what the behavior is. And for so long, I obsessed over what you were doing or saying wrong, over how you were communicating wrong, over how you didn't do it right, over how I couldn't feel your compassion, or over how you didn't say the right thing. And I wasn't actually even aware of, why is this painful for me? What's hurting me inside? What's going on inside of me?
And the outward expression versus the inward, what that created for me was an experience of feeling very controlled and feeling very confused because I didn't know how to fix what was going on inside of you. I'm like, what do you want me to do? Like, you're trying to control me. You're wanting me to solve your problem by somehow figuring out how to be completely different in these ways. And I also felt very attacked, right?
Well, I weaponized emotional health language at you. So I'd be like,
oh, talking about heart melting. Thanks for acknowledging that.
I would be like, you're triggering. You're stuck in black and white thinking. You're not aware of what is happening in this moment. And then you would just deny it because you hated it, me saying those things, instead of me saying, I'm feeling anxiety right now because your tone of voice is raising. And I can tell that that makes me scared that there's about to be an explosion. Instead, I was like, you're triggered. Why aren't you noticing that you're triggered? You're clearly triggered. You're getting louder. And I used all of the emotional health because I wanted you to learn the emotional health concepts because I knew that they were safe.
Right.
The truth is, emotional health does create safety. But when I am jamming it down your throat, it doesn't create safety for you.
Choke on it.
And it makes it makes you want to avoid emotional health. It made you want to avoid the concepts I was saying, which made me angry. Because I was like, we're never going to get safe then. And I didn't realize that I wasn't paying attention to my own emotions. And so now it's a lot of times like, I can tell I'm feeling anxiety. And oftentimes one of the ways that I'll narrate is just kind of what's going on in my body. Like I can tell my chest is feeling kind of tight and my anxiety is building. And I want to communicate that before I get to like self-protection. Or I can tell that the way we're communicating about this, I'm wanting to shut down and I'm wanting to lock up and I don't want that. I want us to be able to have connected conversations. Is there a different way that we could communicate around this? Or maybe I need a couple minutes to be able to figure out ways to communicate what I need moving forward. Guess what we just did?
What did we just do, Abby?
We created the connection cure. And I think this is the thing that I'm most excited that we've ever created for people because it is all of the years of courses that we've made, making it available in one monthly healing membership where you get to be connected to people who are going on the same journey as you while getting access to all of the things that we have made: relationship glue, reclaiming you, the compassion project,
the Father series, living fully alive, the regulation library.
Yes, we have so many things that we've created over the years. We've had over 10,000 people do our courses. We've met with over 4,000 individual clients. And now we have brought all of it together so that you could have access to all of it for less than one counseling session a month.
Yep. And what's really cool is that monthly we have live connection calls where people get together and have those connection moments, talk about what they're going through, how they're healing in their process. And that's been one of the number one things that people have said is so incredible about doing our courses is the community that they create and the healing that takes place inside of that community. I mean, we've had people find their spouses,
find their best friends, find their community, because finally there's people where they realize I'm not alone and I'm allowed to be loved right now in the messiness of my life before everything is fixed, before everything is perfect. You can belong before you have transformed. You can be loved before you're fixed in this community. And it is really rich and beautiful and healing. We're meant to heal with each other. And the whole point of why we made this is so that people could have a holistic healing pathway. We do so much with connecting to your body and actually learning how to move with your body through emotions so that things don't get buried alive in your body. The body keeps the score. We want to zero that score out. And then we have heart connection stuff where you're actually feeling empathy for yourself and others, where you're actually connecting to your own story and you're actually having time to not just learn logically about why you do what you do, but actually have new feelings towards yourself. And then we have all of the logic, the neuroscience, all of the reasons why your body and your brain do what they do, so you can actually understand yourself for the first time and start to have kindness towards why your body is made to react the way it is so that you can heal. It's body, heart, and mind all together in a way that is really, really beautiful.
Yeah, it's cool. It's a really cool membership because you get to stay as long as you want or as short as you want inside of it. You're not trapped inside of it, but you have access to an incredible community and great information. And so that is coming soon. You can go to Justin and Abby, that's abi.com, and you can get on our mailing list there, and we'll let you be the first to know when we release that. But this is something we've been planning for a while now, and I'm glad we're getting to do it.
It's about to come out.
Yeah, that's really good. You know, the narration versus the weaponizing. First off, once you start using a bunch of emotional health language in the way of weaponization, it ends up feeling like you're being very arrogant. And
I'm up here looking down at you.
Correct.
You peon. You don't know how to do things. I am the best.
Yeah.
You are the worst.
So, you know, I'm sitting in those moments and I'm like, you're a hypocrite because you're not actually using emotional health in the first place in the way that you're communicating to me. You're trying to control me inside of this. You're trying to beat me down with this and be like, hey, you have to do this now. And I'm like, that's not fun. And then it's like, I wanted to be healthy for myself in the way that I communicated, but I sure as hell didn't want to engage in feeling like I had someone parenting me, telling me how to do it. Where it's like, it's not that I wasn't resistant to those things. I was resistant to the way that you were presenting them to the table oftentimes. And I was like, if I turned this shit around on her and did it to her, she probably wouldn't be responding too well to me right now.
That's probably true.
I do really appreciate you saying that and bringing that to the table in regards to our relationship. But it's something that happens in a lot of relationships. You will get one of the partners that suddenly gets on an emotional health kick and thinks that they're learning the tools, but they're not implementing themselves well, implementing the tools themselves well.
Yeah, you never start as a master. Anytime you're learning something, you're like going to fumble around.
So they're not implementing it well. And then they try to do things like beat someone into a corner by being like, you need to do all these things. And I'm like, that is not effective.
Yeah.
You are not effectively, if you want someone, I've noticed this in our relationship. If you want someone to be able to respond well and change the way that they're behaving, then we should probably be a model of it.
You got to show what you want to be treated to you. And that's human nature because we actually mirror each other a lot. So when I come at you attacking, it's often that you'll attack back.
Right.
If I come at you defensive, it's often you'll defensive back. But if I come at you kindly sharing about me, you have a higher chance to be able to join the vulnerability.
Yeah. So for me in our relationship, I started asking myself, am I communicating in the way that I want her to communicate with me? Because if right now I'm experiencing poor communication out of her, that means that I have to go deeper in my journey of modeling it inside of this relationship. Whether it was a communication or it was other actions that were considered to be healthy or acting out of wholeness, I started looking at that. And that brought a sense of power inside of my world. Like, instead of continuing a battle that was going on, I'm like, I'm going to remove the battle between the two of us by facing myself. And I just wanted to put that out there for people who, as you're listening to this, you may think, oh yeah, my partner's terrible in those areas. I should probably go communicate that to him. No, maybe you should think about all the ways your partner is terrible in those areas and ask, am I modeling?
Am I doing those same things?
Or am I modeling and have I been consistently modeling this healthy whole behavior?
Yeah. I mean, it really impacted me when you started using I language because that's inherently more vulnerable. And vulnerability often opens us up to deeper connection with each other. And I feel a lot of empathy when you share, like you started by things like, I can tell I'm having a lot of anxiety right now. I can tell I'm feeling really overwhelmed right now. I can tell that I want to say something to meet your needs, but I am feeling so frozen on the inside. When you started sharing about what was going on inside of you, it felt so relieving to me because I could understand. Because from the outside looking in, I thought, he's just getting angrier and angrier. He's just being stubborn. He doesn't care at all. He just wants to lock me out. And when you started sharing the vulnerable things, I started realizing that you cared about me and were having panic way more than I knew. That those two things were happening so often, and I was missing all of the signs because we can't read each other fully until we actually get to hear what's going on internally for the other person. And we naturally will judge to try to figure situations out.
Yeah, it's so true. Speaking of judgment, I actually want to talk about an aspect of something that I did in the relationship that was pretty destructive.
Okay.
So venting. This is a way a lot of people, you talked about this, I think, in the last episode, and you maybe said something earlier in this one, but venting is something that a lot of us do. Mm-hmm. We just want to say all the most horrible things.
We want to say whatever we feel.
Mm-hmm. And actually, there's a lot of people regarding in the therapeutic world that are like, sometimes you just need to be able to vent.
Absolutely.
And verbal ventilation is going to help bring you down. And I'm like, totally.
Yes.
However, there's a lot of destructive aspects of verbal ventilation. And one is the way that we judge in our venting, and we judge other people. Mm-hmm. So one of the ways I would get into a lot of pain, and I'd be like, that person's so stupid. They're so horrible. Do you see how terrible this is? I can't believe that they would do this. They're such an idiot for doing these things. And none of that was having a conversation about me.
Yeah.
It wasn't having a conversation about the actual pain that was inside of me. So as I'm outwardly venting about them, or say I start venting about you and something you're doing, all I've done, and this goes back to the outward versus inward. This outward communication is shotgun blasting everyone out here. And it's making these harsh judgments. And you talked about our nervous system. And when I'm shotgun blasting these judgments towards other people in my pain, I create a world in my nervous system that further says they're not safe. It's not okay to be connected to this person. It builds walls. It creates more disconnect. So I had to start to become aware of this in the relationship, because that ultimately caused you to put up a lot of walls internally.
So many. Because the way that you are venting about other people when you're frustrated, I'm like, he's venting like that about me when he's frustrated with me.
Right.
And that felt dangerous to me, because you're stabbing people in your heart when you're in pain from them, instead of being aware of what's going on inside of you.
Yeah, totally. And so what happens is that when we vent in that manner, we don't actually tend to our own hearts.
Yeah.
So like when I started to express, I can tell that when they did that, it left me feeling rejected and super misunderstood. And I can tell that it pushed on that button of I can't rely on anyone, or I can't trust people.
I can't please them. No matter how hard I try, it won't be enough. That
Right.
It triggers deep pain pockets for me.
Yeah. So when I'm able to articulate that inward experience, what I'm actually doing, it's like I'm pulling up a chair and sitting down in front of Justin, and I'm sitting there to go like, what's really going on inside of you? This is where actual care, self-care takes place. So when I vulnerably express my pain, my experience, all of a sudden it's like, I'm being heard. Even if you don't hear, like, let me back up. We do not feel heard when we are judging other people to try and express our pain.
Absolutely.
We only know more about our judgments about them than about what's going on inside of us.
Yes. And our own hearts are dying to feel understood by us, are dying to feel seen by us. And so when we actually are looking at what is going on inside of us, instead of just blaming them for why we're having pain, it starts to turn the attention we need towards us.
Yeah. So when I started doing that, it felt like I'm sitting down across from Justin, and I'm just like, tell me more, tell me more. And I know that as I've been able to express that, there's something that settles inside of me where I'm like, I feel resolved. I feel taken care of in this moment, and I feel seen. Again, we could be in a moment and I'm telling you about that stuff and it's not landing for you, but I'm like, but I said it. That feels so relieving. And there is, at the end of the day, when it comes to pain, the person that matters most that understands it is the person in the mirror. And that's when I can articulate what's actually going on inside of me, vulnerably expressing my feelings. That's where I know that I've been understood.
Yeah.
And heard.
Yeah. Well, and this is something that we both struggled with. I remember somebody being like, hey, when you vent, you feel really judgmental of other people. And they're like, I feel confused because you're all about compassion and loving people in their mess. But when you vent, it sounds really judgmental. And it was really good feedback for me to hear. I actually have a part of my brain, I did a brain scan where I have too big of a spot of empathy. So like I have over empathy in my brain. And so I'm like just assuming people know that there's that empathy part. And so when I was venting, I was like, no, this is just what you do with your inner circle. You just like, rah, 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 rah. You share about, I can't believe that person did that. And they're driving me crazy because they do da, 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 da. And like, I knew that there was like judgment in that, but I would often go home and then be like, okay, well, how can I see what their angle was and how can I understand where they were coming from? And I would do the work to get to empathy, but none of the people I was venting to even knew that. Bigger than that, though, was exactly what you're talking about is I was never connecting to my own self. I was never connecting to my own pain because I was just focused on like, why are they like this? Why are they doing this? What is wrong with them? They need to change this. They need to be different here. If only they did da 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 da. And so learning how to, this was like a big wake up call, I think, for both of us. Learning how to start to, when I'm frustrated in life, what is it that's going on inside of me? Oh, I'm feeling scared that I'm going to be alone in this situation. Oh, I'm feeling scared that if they do this behavior, that it's going to mean that I have to take over this huge project and that feels overwhelming to me. Oh, I'm feeling scared that my needs aren't going to get met. Oh, I'm feeling scared that I'm not going to be heard or seen here. Whatever the feeling is, or like I'm feeling misunderstood. What if I spent as much energy talking about my feelings as I did about what they did? Now, listen, every once in a while, I still need to vent about what they did first to get myself through the energy of that situation. But a lot of times now, I will, when I want to vent, go towards what is it that I'm feeling? And you know what? People, when I share what I'm feeling, like come towards me. When I share those vulnerable feelings of like, oh, I think I felt dominated, or I think I felt confused about the situation that was happening. When I share things like that, people are like, oh my gosh, I know what that feels like. I'm so sorry. And then I get the love and care that I need. When I vent about someone else, maybe my girlfriends will rant with me. Maybe they'll be like, yeah, they're the worst. Why would they do that? But you know what that is? We're all sending our energy towards the thing that we're mad at, not sending our energy of love towards the thing that was affected. And that is such an important thing. And that really did impact our marriage a lot. And I think for both of us, I know you had a huge reaction to me talking about you venting about people like this for years in our marriage. What do you think it was that switched you over?
I'm trying to think about that for a second.
Because for years I would bring up how you vented about people and you were like, quit trying to control me. This is a healthy release of anger.
First off, there are probably a few areas where I still do it, where with people that
we're still working on it.
Yeah. But I noticed in sharing, I think I noticed so much more relief in sharing my actual pain, what I was experiencing. And I felt more resolve on the other side of it. Like I didn't necessarily feel resolve when I would share about the outward problem, but I felt like, oh, I have some form of resolution right now every time I walked away from that. That's probably when I tried it, I noticed that.
Yeah, I know that in our relationship, this has dramatically impacted us because now I often want to move towards you when you're in pain because you're sharing something that doesn't feel blaming and accusational. It feels like it's letting me know what's happening inside of you. And I'm so easy to want to be like, I don't want you to feel rejected, or I don't want you to feel demeaned, or I don't want you to feel criticized. But you're not saying, I feel like you're being critical. It's like, oh, I'm feeling less than, or I'm feeling like my voice doesn't matter. And those things help me know that can clue into that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
What else do you want to tackle in this conversation?
Well,
I do want to touch on holding nuance.
Okay.
Nuance is such a vital part of being able to approach communicating our pain. And I think it touches on a little part of the earlier part of the conversation where we were talking about black and white thinking. If we can't have a sense of giving the benefit of the doubt and having nuance, what we'll end up doing is creating pain that is intensified. So ultimately, say you do something that hurts my feelings, and I don't imagine that there could be something that I don't quite understand or something to it. I can interpret that in such a way where I say, she's a terrible person. She really doesn't care about me. And I begin to amplify.
She wanted to hurt me.
She wanted to hurt me. Yeah, we amplify the pain all of a sudden inside of us. But when we get into nuance, it's like, I don't fully know all of what was going on inside of that. There could be things that I'm missing inside of this story. I don't have all the details. I actually start lowering the level of how I'm experiencing my pain. I might still feel a sense of rejection, but when I give the benefit of the doubt, I sit there and say, oh, but you know what? She could have been meaning to do this, or there could be something I'm missing in what she did. So all of a sudden, again, I lower the stakes of the pain on my life. And so a lot of people are unnecessarily amplifying the pain that they're experiencing inside of a relationship because they get locked into that black and white thinking, and it's really destructive for our own hearts.
Yeah. I think that a lot of what you're talking about, I learned as a core value that there's always something I could be missing. And one of the ways it was just fine to me is I could be right about 95% of the information, but I might be missing 5% of the information that could dramatically change how I see what's happening. And I like the idea of like, I'm not believing that I'm fully wrong about situations. Like I get to affirm, no, I might be right about how I'm reading 95% of this, but I'm holding space for the fact that there is a little bit more information that I definitely don't have. And one of the ways that I think about it is in any given situation, there are too many factors for any of us to be able to take into account at once. So when me and you are in a conflict, there is innumerable things being involved. There is your whole day that you had, how much food you've had, where your body is at, where your history is from your childhood, what different experiences you have for what's going on next for you in the day. There's so many variables of what's going on. It'd be impossible for me to know all of them at once. And then I have all of those variables going on inside of me. And so we often behave like, I know what's happening. I can read you. And especially for kids who grew up hypervigilant, who were really good at reading people. And I am. That's what I do for a job. I literally we've worked with 10,000 clients. You know what I mean? And we're good at it. I'm good at noticing things that people say and do and helping them unlock to healing. So I can read people's body language really well. And I've learned that there's still so much that I can miss. And so what I've done is I've held No, my discernment is pretty accurate. I'm almost always picking up that something is happening, but I have no idea about the 5% that I'm missing of information. And what that does is it makes it so that I now am having to ask more questions. So it could be like, we do this a lot. We ask a lot more questions in our communication style now in our safety, where I'll be like, hey, I can tell that I'm feeling a little bit on edge. I can't tell if you're frustrated. It feels like you came in maybe with some energy. Now, what I'm doing, I'm not defining you. I'm not saying you came in angry or you came in defensive or you came in frustrated or you're at a level 10 or what is wrong with you? I'm normally just noticing like I'm feeling on edge, which is about me. I can tell that there's something going on in you and I don't know what it is. Can you help me understand you more? That language then makes it so that you don't have to fight back. Like in the past, I would be like, you're angry. And you'd be like, I'm not angry, or you're defensive. And you'd be like, I'm not defensive. Now you can answer the question. You might be like, yeah, I just got out of a really long day and I just feel spent. Or you might say, yeah, I just got out of a really hard meeting and I have a lot of stress that I need to probably figure out a way to like release out of my body. Or, yeah, I just got done with a really hard workout and all I can think of is I need protein. It gives you so much more options. If I'm coming to the situation being like, there's 5% that I may not understand, and I'm going to ask to give him room to tell me instead of decide that I'm right or that I'm wrong.
Yeah. One of the things I want to talk about with this is that it is vital in order for us to actually be heard on our pain. It's vital that we learn how to communicate about our impact and our experience. Right. And so for me, one of the things that I had to learn was like, the people around me aren't going to understand me if they don't understand the impact that's happening. And also you can't argue with impact.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I just know that this is painful for me.
Mm-hmm.
I know that I'm feeling sad.
Mm-hmm.
I know that I'm feeling dismissed. These are the impacts that's going on inside of me. So no one can argue because I'm not telling you about you, right?
Yeah.
And so my experience is that I'm not feeling heard, and I'm not feeling like I'm having room to share what I want to share. And I'm feeling like I'm not being heard. And so I'm navigating that inside of me right now. And so as I'm talking about that, again, the impact and the experience are things that can't really be argued with. You can't say, no, you're not feeling that. You can say, no, I'm not doing that if I'm saying, you're not listening to me. But I'm having an experience of I'm not feeling heard. I can't argue with that.
I mean, well, you can say you should feel heard.
Yeah, but
you get to say, well, regardless of what's happening, that is the feeling I'm having.
Yeah, totally. So, but this is going to be one of the most critical things is how do I communicate you talked earlier about the eye language. And that's one of the most difficult things to do is to learn how to communicate the eye language. The eye language is really concerned with the impact and the experience that I'm inwardly having inside of that. And a lot of times we are so disconnected internally that it's easy to make it about an outward thing. But in order to communicate about the impact and the experience, I have to get inside of myself. I have to be willing to get present and be like, what is actually happening? And that was one of the biggest hurdles that I found that I had in our relationship is how do I get into what's going on inside of here and find words for what's happening inside of here?
Yeah. I think for me, the best way I learned eye language was a few lists. So I had a body sensation list that we have, which is like, it helps me notice different sensations. Like, oh, my chest is pounding really loud, or, oh, my jaw is clenched, or, oh, my muscles are feeling tight. So that helps me clue into my experience when I start to notice what is happening in my body. And then we have an emotions list where I started to learn what emotion am I actually feeling? That was a big thing for me to learn, what emotion is this actually? And one of the biggest clues for me, as you learn about your nervous system, you learn that really under every trigger is some form of fear.
Yeah.
It might be fear of abandonment. It might be fear of rejection. It might be fear of being misunderstood. It might be fear of being unloved. Like there's so many different fears. Fear of my autonomy being taken over, fear of being controlled. There's so many things. And so what that's done is it helped me immediately be like, what body sensations am I having? And then what fear is going on inside of me? And I fought against that for a long time. I was like, I'm not afraid. I feel pissed. I'm not afraid. I just feel annoyed. I'm not afraid. I feel confused. And so the question of what am I afraid of has really helped me clue into what's going on inside of me, because then I have to look at the situation and be like, what am I afraid of in this situation? That's underneath all of the other emotions. And that has helped me begin to know my own experience more.
Yeah. One of the things that I wanted to add to this as we're wrapping this up is if I'm noticing myself talk about other people, judge them like we were talking about earlier in my verbal ventilation, it's probably a good sign that I don't know how to communicate my pain. So a lot of people listening might be thinking like, I know how to communicate my pain, but are you noticing that when you are in pain, it's about someone else? Then you probably don't know how. And that's where you talked about the different things that you can do as far as like get an emotion wheel. Like maybe I don't actually know words for pain and I need to find those words. And that's a really easy thing that you can do is you can start looking up what are words for different expressions of pain and hurt. What does that look like? What are words beyond sadness and anger? And I think that is something that we all need to grow in is our vocabulary. Because if you don't have the vocabulary, you'll feel really bound in your ability to communicate what you need to communicate.
Oh yeah. This took me a long time. Probably embarrassingly long to learn what emotions I'm feeling. And some of them like made sense right away. And some of them took me years to comprehend, where I'm like, I didn't know that I felt fear. Like, that's why it was really hard for me. I thought, I don't feel fear. I feel shame. I don't feel fear. And so learning how to actually connect, we all are experiencing so many human emotions, but most of us don't know how to spot them and name them. It took me years to recognize I felt rejected. I didn't even know that was a thing. It took me years to even know what being vulnerable felt like. Like I understood the concept, but I wasn't noticing it in real time. And so I think giving yourself a lot of grace, because a lot of people in culture don't know this. And I just watched this clip from Survivor recently. It's like really big right now, about this girl who was diagnosed with autism. And she shared with one of her teammates that she was autistic. She didn't want everyone to know because she knew it could be a weakness that could be exploited in the game. She shared with one of them and she said, sometimes my emotions get really overwhelming. And here's what I need. I need you to grab my hands. I need you to help stabilize. And she kind of walked him through what she would need if her emotions got too big for her. And then she had an experience a little bit later where she had to use a lot of concentration for this game. And she did. She won the game. She did what she had to do. And when she ended the game, though, the amount of anxiety and intensity she had to do to stay in the game just overwhelmed her system. And she went into probably what I would say an autistic episode of panic. And, or an episode that felt like her body was probably going into panic. Not because her mind was, she wasn't afraid of anything. She won, but she just had so much energy in her body that then it needed a release. And at this point, he was on another team, and they let him come, and he actually did for her all the things that she asked. He grabbed her hands. He helped her get back into her body. He held her. He helped her breathe. He just helped regulate her nervous system in the ways that she had kind of communicated she needed to happen. And when I was watching it, I cried for so many reasons. One, because it was so beautiful seeing an autistic person have a meltdown and be loved and soothed, because I could so relate to her. And I have also had experiences like that where I felt really soothed in situations like that. And it was a beautiful moment of love. Jeff, the host, cried, which he's never cried before in all the seasons of Survivor. Like it was very moving. But the thing that stood out to me the most was that she had so learned herself. She had, like, without shame. She wasn't like, I'm good or bad for how I have emotions, but she had so learned herself that she could give a map of what she needed and she could communicate about her own needs. And then she could receive that when she needed it. And I just remember thinking, like, and I think probably her parents had done a really good job of helping her learn about herself. I could see that, like, she knew how to ground herself. She knew what to do with her big feelings. I didn't know any of that. But if I could have known, sometimes I have big feelings and this is what happens inside of me when that happens. And this is what I need to be able to come back to me. If I could have told you that, that would have been game changing.
Yeah, totally.
The ability to know our own map, our own internal system, our own emotions, like my ability to know I'm starting to have anxiety and I can tell that if we don't figure out how to change this conversation, I might go into anger and I don't want to go into anger. Well, I have to know my own system well enough to even know where my explosion point is so that I can communicate it 20 steps before that. And that takes more focus on what's going on inside of us than focus on what our partner is doing that is just making us angry or destroying us.
Yeah, I think that's a really good example. It was a powerful video too.
Mm-hmm.
It was awesome watching someone be able to hold that space and communicate.
Yeah.
What
So
they needed.
When you're doing conflict, a couple of the things that we've talked about, we didn't even really go into this, but vulnerability is a huge one. Learning to communicate with nuance. One of the ways that I do that is I'll say, I know that you love me, but I'm feeling unloved in this area. That's also benefit of the doubt. Like, I know that you really care about me, but when this happened, I felt like you forgot about me.
Yeah.
Or something like those kinds of things. Communicating with nuance, benefit of the doubt. There's 5% that I don't know what's happening inside of you. And so I'm going to be curious instead of judging you. I'm going to seek to understand. I'm going to realize that I have a propensity. Every human has the propensity to judge. And so I'm going to realize that and take that into account and try to actually find out what's going on inside of you. I'm going to learn how to share about my feelings more than blame you for it. And I'm going to learn how to vent. Does that feel like we've covered? Is that a lot of the things?
Yeah, we've covered all that.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
Pain is a rough one to learn how to do. We have the capacity to learn it, like we said before, and it's something that is vital to learn in all relationships. And we can get better at that as we get better at knowing ourselves. Ultimately, at the end of the day, It took a lot for me to get to learn to know myself. Like it did you too, and it was scary. This stuff is not an easy thing. But it's like we don't have to. We're not alone to figure this out. I think for me, when it came to figuring all this out, it was like I just had this sense inside of me where I agreed with the idea that I don't know how to do this. I was like, I don't know how to do this. I want to know how to do this. And then there was like this internal invitation that said, help me to the world around me. And all of a sudden moments started evolving and connections started happening. And I started, running into information that would help me along the way. Like you're going to get there. It's just that humble willingness to go on the journey. So
and to not give up, because it took us both longer than I think we wanted it to.
I think it was really vital for us to let go of the shame in the journey. If you're going to do this, there's this sense of like, okay, this may take me a while and I'm going to screw up a million times. I'm going to feel like I'm going backwards sometimes. But the fact of the matter is that I'm trying to do this in the first place where I wasn't trying before. That's a big deal. I'm trying where a lot of other people don't try. So it's that sense of just like giving yourself a sense of grace, giving yourself ample amounts of time, knowing this doesn't happen overnight, but you can learn, you can grow, and you can change things. So.
And one thing I'll say is, it took us years of trying to learn so many new skills. some might say a decade or more. And so what we've done is we've compiled courses where the information is straightforward so that you don't have to spend years trying to figure it all out. Like you'll at least learn the information, and then you might have to work it out for a few years, but it's so much easier if you know the direction to head, if you know what it sounds like, if you're given some ideas and concepts of how to move through that. And so we've created a program called the Connection Cure.
The Connection Cure membership.
The next Connection Cure membership. And inside of it is all of our programs. So we have Reclaiming You, which is teaching you all about, when we were talking about narrating, that Reclaiming You is teaching you what's going on in your body, what's going on in your brain, what's going on in your emotions, what are the things that you're feeling, how do you respond, how do you move emotions through your body, how do you deal with the energy and get grounded instead of taking it out on the people around you, how do you self-soothe, all of those things. Then we have our regulation library, which is 80 guided regulation activities. And then we have the Compassion Project, Relationship Glue, the Father Series. We have so many things that are all set up to help you begin to understand you, why you do what you do, and how to retrain your nervous system, rewire your mind, and really be connected to yourself and others in a safe way. We've kind of always been the thing of whatever we learn, we want to empower others with so that they can maybe do it faster than we did.
Yeah, totally. Yes. Our ceiling is your floor. So if you want to check out more about that, you can go to Justin and Abby, that's abi.com, and you can jump into that over there. If it's not up by the time you get over there, you can always just add yourself to our email list and we'll notify you when it is out, depending on when this is released.
That's because we have no idea which order this will be released in.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Anyways, so it was good sitting down with you for part 2 of this. Peace out.